What's up, Final Fantasy fans? My name is Prince and this is Urban Acolyte Gaming. This is the second video on my Final Fantasy XIV in 2020 new players experience. My first video was on the 5 reasons why I stopped playing Star Wars Old Republic to start playing Final Fantasy XIV. But this is the first video where I actually talk about my experience actually playing Final Fantasy XIV. In the other video, I mentioned that I tried Final Fantasy back in 2015, about 5 months after Heavensward was released. But back then there was only a 2-week trial to play the game. I was a member in one of those large online gaming communities that has guilds in multiple games, and I saw the membership in the Final Fantasy division getting a lot of applications. There was a lot of activity in that part of the forum, and with the Star Wars community dwindling after people played through the initial chapters in Knights of the Fallen Empire, I think a few people started to take a look at Final Fantasy XIV. I was one of those people, but back at that time in 2015, I was a grad student at Vanderbilt Divinity School. I had a field education on Saturday mornings, and Sundays were usually spent getting caught up on studying for class. So I really only had Saturday evenings to game. Anyway, I remember making a character in Gridania, probably a Lancer because I played a Sith assassin on SWTOR. I don't remember much except for running outside the city to fight some squirrels. I remember my character went into a bunch of auto attacks and I immediately logged off because the fighting felt too slow and I really didn't like auto attacks. I think I was expecting Final Fantasy XIV to be more action-based like the Elder Scrolls Online, and it wasn't. So I bounced and I never took a look at it again until a few weeks ago. So this is gonna sound funny, but what brought me back to the game was a tweet from my friend Roberto Blake. If you're watching this and you want to grow a YouTube channel, check out Roberto Blake. And if you don't know who he is, well, he's one of those guys who teaches people how to grow on YouTube. And he's not just some random dude either. YouTube has actually had him teach people about YouTube at their official events. Anyway, Roberto tweeted something about parents using MMOs to teach their kids about economics. It sounds crazy, but I mean, think about all the stuff you do in a game when it comes to farming or selling things on the market. There's a lot of good business lessons there that you can apply to the real world. So I thought about what Roberto said, and I started looking for an MMO that was popular in Asia that I can play with my stepson. Now, he speaks very little English, so I also thought it would be good if there's a Thai community for him. But I could also use the game to give me teaching lessons to help him learn English faster. So I just happened to see that there was a huge Thai community on Tonberry server, which is on the Elemental Japanese data center. Now, I didn't know this until just now, but there's actually a neighborhood in Bangkok called Thonburi. Water Room Temple is there, so you guys like Self-Elevation and follow my other channels, y'all actually saw that temple when I did my first live stream in Bangkok with my wife. But anyway, so it turns out the Thonburi server is the most populated server on Elemental, so when I first rolled my tune they wouldn't let me go there. I was given the choice to play on Unicorn or on Typhon, which are low populated servers. At first, I was just going to play with the character creator and then roll my actual tune on Typhon because it sounds like Tython, the planet where you start out as a Jedi on Star Wars Old Republic. But I ended up getting glued to the story and I forgot to re-roll my tune over on Typhon. So I don't want to run on too long because I actually intend to do commentary on the story as I progress through A Realm Reborn. So I think I'm going to have to save half of what I set out to talk about in this video for my next video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reflect on the beginning. So the first thing that happened was this really nice movie that sets up everything that's happening in Eorzea when I start my adventures. There's this really big fight between these armies and then something about a moon dropping from the sky. A dragon comes out and starts tearing everything up. And then this old wizard guy tries to fight the dragon. Now, when I first saw that, I had no idea what was happening, but since this is a reflection, I know a whole lot more now than I did back then. Now, to y'all who haven't played Final Fantasy XIV, who just happen to be watching this video, all the stuff in the cutscene was how Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 ended and 2.0 A Realm Reborn began. It's why this expansion is called A Realm Reborn. See, the first version of Final Fantasy XIV bombed when it first came out. Yoshi P was put in charge of the game, and his team decided that the best thing to do would be to blow up the game and start over fresh. So they did this really meta thing where the storyline that people were playing in 1.0 was leading up to this event that they could not prevent no matter what they did. The lore was shaped around this big event, and it was eventually called the Calamity. And when your character starts in A Realm Reborn, it's 5 years after the Calamity. Now the next thing to happen is this really weird scene that was like on some astral plane with me and this dude who looked like some kind of a Sith Lord. And I'm guessing I'll be seeing him in the future. So it turns out that this astral plane thing was like a force vision, because my character wakes up in the back of a wagon with these two Wonder Twin looking elves and this old guy who's chopping it up with my character all about the city where we're headed, called Ulda. Ulda is in the desert and it's ruled by a sultanate, but Coin is king in Ulda. There's this group of business people called the Syndicate, and they have just as much control of Ulda as the Sultana. So my guess is that we're going to deal with a few conflicts that I can already see just based on my brief introduction. We have these beastmen, like this clan of lizard dudes called the Amoja, who ambushed the mercenary soldiers who stopped my carriage ride. We've got the mercenary group, I think they're called the Silver Blades or something, who are actually under the control of the Syndicate, I think. We've got the beef between the Syndicate and the Sultana to deal with, and then there's also the fallout from the Calamity. And I have a feeling that the fallout is the cause of all of these other conflicts. It's basically what ties everything together. So that's my initial assessment of the situation in Ulda that my character is about to jump into as I experience Final Fantasy XIV as a brand new player in 2020. The next video, I'll actually talk about my early adventures in Ulda and meeting the God Fist at the Pugilist Guild. So make sure you come back for that video. If you want to follow my adventures through Eorzea, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you want to receive notifications when I post a new video, ring the bell to enable the notifications. But that's all I got for this video, so thanks for watching. Y'all keep on breathing, and may the light of the crystal be with you, always.